Hi everyone, and welcome to our second week in review for the household campaign. I'm joined here today by the whole team. Last week we had Guilherme Goulart as Rico and Simone were on Modena, but this time they're joining us directly from Italy. How are both of you?
We are doing fine. We are finally back in studio, and it was really a pleasure to go back to a con after so much time. But it's also good to be here in a quiet space to have this live stream.
You even joined us briefly last time directly from Modena. It looked so good. Like it just warms my heart that we're able to actually meet gamers and other people from the industry in person again.
Yeah,
And how are
it's
you,
about
Guilherme?
time.
Sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. No, it's about time that we come back together.
Yeah, true. How are you, Guilherme? How was your week?
It was good. Very excited about a lot of the stuff that we revealed. Some of it we'll cover today, but it was very fun to see you guys on the show floor. See a lot of people there. How was the reaction? Like, what were people asking you guys the most when you were there?
Simone?
A lot of things. I don't know what's the it was too hot. I can't remember.
Everything is a
No,
blur.
it was very hot event, but very heartwarming event because a lot of the guys we meet are friends that we couldn't see in person in 1-2 years. So it was like, hey, you are here one time. You are growing old. You are growing old too. I remember you, but now you are. That's it. That was main. Lots of conversation when something like this. Of course, a lot of our Italian friend asked us about household, which is great news in Italy because after 3 years, this new this wonderful new edition. We already last weekend we already unlocked new content that Italians wasn't able to see and read before. So there was a lot of questions about I think the kitchen, which was the first room we unlocked on the maybe the first day. Uh, Not long after the start, so they were very interested in what's new, of course,
I,
since
I, I gotta
most of
tell you, if I were a littling, I'd be scared to go to the kitchen.
and you are thinking straight because the kitchen is not for the faint of heart.
Wow. Yeah, we will talk a little bit more about the kitchen today, right? Later on.
Yeah,
I
we should.
Everyone is greeting you in the comment section, and I found this particular comment very funny when you were describing people greeting you in the event.
Yes, yes,
That's
yes.
exactly it.
I
That's the
assume,
Italian way.
yeah, I assume a tremendous amount of coffee was consumed.
Yeah,
Yes,
mostly yes. But
Very
also for the first time, probably orange juice and something like that because it was very hot because summer just
yes.
Hit Italy with a
The
baseball
day
bat.
before the beginning of the con, so wow.
Yeah, we went from 20 to 30 in like 2 days. So it was intense.
Well, shall we begin to look back on what we discovered this week and maybe when we reach the present, take a look forward?
All right.
Okay, so first off, let's look at this I don't know how to describe her. This
She's
psycho,
she's a
this
rebel
huge,
through and through.
this rebel.
Yeah,
She's great.
Yeah, and
Really.
we just to explain that last time we showed some of the miniatures in detail that we had unveiled during the first week. We had just shown Pierre on the last live, and then since then we've unlocked as a free stretch goal Alexandrine Regret, and of course here we get to see her her figure, and also hear from the creators themselves more about her. Just on the miniature side, I think it's I think the challenge when we saw the artwork for her was exactly nailing that rebel or rebellious nature and attitude, right? So there's much about the pose and the attitude that she has to carry herself with. Of course, she we want to make sure that we capture also the militaristic look, the way she carries herself, her pose, and then we kind of rounded it up with the sculpted scenery base, which at start was a crisp sort of column, and we wanted to make that curving around her rather than just a piece of wall or a corner. And the more we worked on it, the more it made sense to bring in the damage that you see there, like the cracks and the failings on the piece, also to kind of as a reflection or of the status of armed rebellion and whatnot, right? Kind of the decay and what she brings to the table.
Now, on the character side, what can you tell us about her?
But first of all, Alexandrine is one character from the original guide of Household. This is from the first edition. And this also she gives us an opportunity to look at. This is of course the old layout and the old rules, but how they will look on the actual books. We will have all the information, the background here, and the rules here, and their sheet basically. And Alexandrine is we are in love with Alexandrine because she has very complex background, because she starts as basically as one of the bad guys. She is about to do something very very bad when she see the horror of the first household wars, and then she realized that she's not doing any good to the house, and she changes her path in life basically, and so she starts to hunt the people that brought her on that path, and so basically she's almost a war criminal that right before doing the bad things she finally do the good thing, and then she starts hunting down the other guys, the real bad guys. So I think she's quite cool. And yeah, that's it. But you'll find more on the guide, the whole backstory, because she's also connected to other character of the saga, and I think she's just a deep character, and I personally I like her a lot. So I might be biased on that.
There's a few interesting questions.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Maybe you can get to just some of them before we continue. I think the first one was about the poll. Someone asked that we posted a poll and they wanted to see pictures. Basically, the idea is that we were showing character or little concepts, right? Not all the art is available, and the idea is to create with the result of the poll, right? So the idea is exactly from each of the folks to choose from a concept for the description, from what they are, from their bio, and then we're going to create art based on that.
Also, because Household has more than 400 NPCs. So because we have an encyclopedia made by our friend Angela. So there are NPCs in the game, so we cannot expect arts for every of them, of course, because it would be a very big book. But yes, as Gal said, this is an opportunity for you to start knowing the character and pick your favorite, and we'll make some good art, hopefully.
Yeah. And then another quick one, someone asked how many players can take part in the story. So this is something we've commented a few times, but basically...
Sorry, can I just preface with, this is not a weird question at all. This is a perfectly reasonable question.
When we talk about role-playing game, it's a legitimate question because there are all kinds of role-playing game out there. There are solo role-playing game, there are role-playing game thought for a group of 10 people. In Household case, we took the game for about 2 to 6, let's say, players, in which one of them is the narrator. So one narrator and one player, it's possible. Also, you will find special rules inside the household to help you and to guide you in playing in this particular version of the game. If someone new has Broken Compass, even Broken Compass has a specific set of optional rules to enhance this type of sessions. And the maximum amount, I know I master for a table with 7 or 8 characters, so it's possible. It just becomes very, very difficult. Also, in Broken Compass, we have every household. We will have some additional rules when your group is more than 5 litlings, because, of course, when you design a role-playing game, you have to balance thinking a number of players. So, if I don't know, an adventure and a series of threats is thought for 4 litlings, which is our standard. Our saga, our all adventure thought for 4 litlings. 3 or 5, it's not a really big change. 8 litlings, maybe you could find it easier to overcome a threat than 3. It's, of course, but you will find some optional rules and some hint to how to play in these particular situations. I hope this answered the question.
Yeah, the next question here I think is more directed at Guilherme because it's about the minis. So, what's the most difficult thing from translating a character from artwork to a 3D model?
Let me try to keep this brief because I could speak for an hour just on this. There's basically there's a couple of things. I'd say the first one usually is how to translate the 3 dimensionality, meaning the depth of the figure. Many times we sculpt the figure sort of following the pose that you see on the artwork, and it works from one angle. It works from that angle. You start rotating things, and you see that a lot of things don't work, from pose to gesture to objects to how do you place the feet, how do you feel the weight settle. So one of the things is about the depth and how do you translate that, which means it has to be adapted, right? It can't just be a literal translation from art to miniature. And the second one would be the needs of production itself, where you can't make things too thin or too small. It's particularly true when things are meant to be delicate in the artwork. When it comes to plastic production, we're talking about very hot temperature plastic being injected into an iron mold, and how that actually comes out. It can't be too small, too thin. So we do have to compensate, making buttons large and even hair strands. There's a number of things we have to adapt. I'd say, just to keep it brief, those are some of the things that we always have to look for.
Now, I see another question here that we'll get to it quickly before we go back to look back on our week. Can the narrator be a player, or does he just narrate? Narrate? Yeah, I've never said that word in that verbal tense.
Actually, both, because the narrator is itself a player, but as this is, as someone would call it, a traditional RPG, every normal player has their own PC. They have their own character, then they roll, and the narrator just have a bunch of NPC, have a bunch of what we call them non-player character, which is basically complementary to the story that he
or
can.
Opponents. The narrator is in charge of rolling the opponents. In Household, you could choose if decide at random what an opponent will do during a conflict, or choose it himself or herself.
Yeah, but basically, when you are if you're not familiar with the RPG in general, when you are talking to the Duke, for example, in that case, the narrator takes the role of the Duke, and then you are fighting the spider, and the narrators take the role of the spider. So he has all the other character, actually. So so yes, he or she is a player, of course.
Yeah, perhaps the one who plays the most.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah. That's for sure.
the one who played the hardest.
Well, shall we go back to our stretch goals for the week?
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier about the kitchen. This is one of the first stretch goals we unlocked, and I don't think we discussed it last week. So, what can you guys tell us about the kitchen and these new rooms we are unlocking?
First of all, rooms in household are something really are really special, meaning that this is something new also for the Italian audience who already have the first edition. So it's not like it's hard to convey how much people here wants the first edition of the game. We're waiting for this other room that are still hidden in the game. So it's something we value a lot, and we are very happy that we can finally bring to the books and hopefully to your tables. And the kitchen in particular has a lot of dangerous places, but our favorite place is of course the fridge, because it's the only thing in the house that has the snow and the ice, and so you will see that littlings can go on vacation in the fridge, at least in the bottom part of the fridge. They can go skiing or sightseeing in the fridge. But there are also fearless explorators and adventurers who will climb the icy mountain of the fridge up to the top when there is ice, and uh, one of the definitely one of the most dangerous places of the house.
Yes.
So
And maybe the frozen liquor of the master. We don't know.
yeah,
We're talking about the fridge. I'm wondering who pays the bills for the house now that the owner's gone. It's magic,
not
right?
the owner,
I'll be
Yeah.
honest.
not the owner, but then
They just keep piling up on on the front door.
Probably lives behind some sort of center. I don't know.
there is an open
River.
account.
I don't
So
know. Sorry.
that's an all-in.
And then, of course, the second room we unlocked is the small bedroom.
Yeah, another new room. And first of all, I would like to say, because somebody was asking, these art we are showing are very different from the one you are used to, the one made by Daniela. So somebody was wondering in the comments, why are they so different? And there is another artist that is working on the guide. That is her name is Corinna Praglieri, and Corinna does this kind of arts that are inside the book. There are very few of them, but there are like postcards, or there are I would
Comic
say
stripes from
comic stripes from the outside world. So they are technically they always tell a story. They have their little space in the books, but of course we will also have the full realistic art for each of these rooms, that like the one you already see on the Kickstarter page. So I wanted to clarify that because they look quite different.
And just to add to that point, too, sorry to interrupt you, Rico. You mentioned that these are brand new. These rooms are brand new to even to people who own the first edition.
Yes.
But and if you don't own the first edition, so if you're from from the US or any other market that did not see household, this is also not only brand new to you, but it is akin to a whole new realm, whole new region in the house. So it is expanding. We're pushing past and bringing a whole new area, new region to you with all its particularities, right?
Yeah, it's a huge chunk, actually. I want to stress that it's not something small in the game, like many other things are small in household, but the room is actually like a whole nation, basically.
Yeah.
It's, and the small bedroom, it's unlike you might imagine. It's not a very nice place, but it's a very, I would say, somehow a creepy place. It's very dangerous because it's after a huge forest of mushroom or wild mushroom that is on the hallway on the upper floor. But it also in the small bedroom you will find the dollhouse, and the dollhouse is something very quite unique in household because it's the only thing in the house that is somehow at a littling scale.
Please, little
Uh, yeah, so it's not made of scraps or
And then for all the bakers who are very interested in the bigger lore, the small made room makes us know that the master had a daughter,
yeah, and it also adapts to the
probably a small daughter, at least one.
Who does not pay the bills?
yeah.
Who doesn't? Maybe who is paying the bill? Who knows?
Who knows? I see a couple of interesting questions. So can we just make a quick stop here?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one. I've been playing RPG for 25 years, and every time there are factions or races, etc., it can be difficult to create reasons or purposes for the characters to go on adventures together. I've made lots of backgrounds for my players, but do you have any tips or ideas for households? I'm sure you do.
Yes.
It's the basic concept of the game, actually.
It's
So
the theme of the game. How different people from different folks has to work together to achieve something great. When you will receive the Saga of the Fragile Piece, you will see there the first 6 and not basically each and every of the more than 60 adventures. There will have a huge part dedicated on why these 4 littlings are working together. Sometimes it's by choice, sometimes it's by accident, like many of the movies we love and we use as idea for our games. Maybe you are in the wrong place at the wrong time, and now there are 4 of you, I don't know, followed by police, and you don't know why. Because one of you did something. I don't know.
Also,
of ideas.
let's not talk only about the character from the Saga of the Fragile Piece, because maybe you want to make your own character, and that's we use a lot our pre-made character, but of course there's a possibility that you want to make your own character. And basically, household, we say that a lot. It's not only a geographical location; it's a historical location, because you are not playing in the house; you are playing in the house 100 years after the disappearing of the master. And this year is a very important year because it's the first time that littlings are allowed to leave their rooms and to travel freely, because before that there was war. That was the House War One, the first House of War, and now there is the Fragile Piece, of course, and littlings finally have their documents, which are your character sheets. These are real life littling
historical representation of it.
And you are free to travel. So your character is starts at chapter 1. That is the first time he can actually leave his room. And also, I always want to remember that there are no races in household. It's not a concept that exists in household. We have the different folks, of course. So your character could be a fairy or could be a Boggart, but the only difference between a fairy and a Boggart is that they have a different hereditary contract, meaning that their ancestor made a deal with a different force when the master came to the house. But for example, a fairy could also be the son of a fairy and a Boggart. There are no mixed races. There is no such concept basically as races or ethnicity in household. So your culture will depend on how you lived, where you have lived. It's not something like you find in most fantasy games, like dwarf with dwarf and elves with elves. We don't have that kind of stuff in household.
Okay. Speaking of the contracts, the second question I thought was really interesting is this one. How magic heavy is the setting? Like, I didn't see any caster or spells, for example.
there is no magic in household apart from yourself. You, of course, you are a magic creature of some kind because you are very, very, very small. But the only hint of magic we are about to unlock it. There are the contracts. Contracts are a deal that your ancestor made with one of the household forces, like the fireplace or the draft or the sink. And there are some contracts you might gain
Some
during
personal
the
contracts.
game that we call personal contract. For example, if you are about to defeat a certain spider, a big spider who has a strong power inside the house, because in household, the more something is important, the bigger it is. So important spider or dreadful spiders are bigger than they should be. Uh, then this spider might offer you a contract in exchange for his life. And this contract will give you small powers at a cost, always at a cost. And for example, one of those contracts,
Physical and psychological cost.
yeah, one of those contracts is called the Wall Strider contract, and it allows you to walk on walls, on vertical surfaces.
Just
This is-
walls, not ceilings, because you
Yeah.
have a contract with wall. You do not have a contract with the ceiling,
The
which
ceiling.
is a
The ceiling
much
is
more powerful forces inside the house.
and but in exchange for that, you have always to go up a stair, starting with your right foot. You cannot start with the left foot. And if you don't describe this action in details to the narrator, if you don't specify that, the narrator will throw a dice, and if you use the wrong foot, then terrible
Terrible things.
will happen. So you have
That's
a
because the walls hate the stairs. There are also
Yeah.
things with the household forces.
But don't expect no fireball. Don't expect this kind of.
Rico, when you said contracts are the only real magic, I'm thinking lawyers of the real world rejoice.
Yes. There is a legendary NPC in household which is called I don't know in English the bureaucrat.
The bureaucrats.
Argo, the bureaucrat, who is told to be the only littlings who have mastered the power of contract and turned a contract into a sheet of paper when you can sign and not just
the
told
bureaucrat
variables with a giant spider, which is of course much easier to just sign a piece of paper. But it's just a legend, a myth of the house.
But the bureaucrats are somehow the alchemists of
Yes.
of household, are the real mages. So the bureaucracy is some kind of a
Mystical
secret,
art. Yes.
like in real life, like really
Just like our words. I see no difference.
Well, let's go back to our week in review. I think we'll get a few more comments in a second. I think the next thing we have to talk about is perhaps the most awaited one for people, which is the poll results.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yesterday you released a stretch goal that would allow us to have custom jokers for each folk, and you gave us 3 options for each, and people voted, and the results are in.
All right.
Are you ready? Okay, so for the fairy folk, the winner is General Valentin Dulamp, aka the Crystal General. So who's that guy? Remind me again.
Valentin Dulamp is one of we call them the golden backs, because they are the only fairies who can fight while flying, thanks to a special armor that cover their wings, but still allows them to fly. Because normally when you wear an armor, you are not able to fly. But they have this golden armor made from something
that in Italian is called
the golden
Moscondoro.
mantle.
which is like golden beetle in English, but golden beetle is a slightly different insect. There is another with a gold in the name that I do not remember. If Caterina is here in the chat, please help us, because we spend a lot of evenings finding them.
And Valentine was basically the first woman who became captain of the Golden Backs, and she's fighting in the most dangerous places of the house and even on the outside of the house.
The Golden Shuffle. Thank you, Caterina. The Golden Shuffle.
Thank you. So
ready to see the Boggart winner?
Yes.
Or do you have anything to add for the fairy winner?
No, I am shocked that Duke Ludmillan was so down in the polls, but you'll get your chance to know. I mean, somebody got to lose.
Yes.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, the Boggart results are maybe not that surprising. Our dear narrator won by a small margin, a very small margin.
These are three wonderful characters, all the three of them. Very different. You will get to know them. Penelope, you will know her and hate her in the guide, or if you play the saga, which is an NPC who runs this group of hunter and do like very, very bad prank, like taking you and tossing you in a forest full of spiders just for fun. But Erasmo, of course, really he's our dear narrator after all.
I just saw a very good point from the chat there from Goulart. He said, please make it Valentine's name to be De La Lampe, not Du Lampe, because it's more appropriate.
De La Lampe.
Yeah.
De La Lampe.
Possible.
Thanks, Grelo.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Merci. We now have a French neighborhood somewhere in the house, so you have plenty of
a lot of little things for the realm, but fairies or other folks have French names and French location. We will see another one in a moment.
But also pretty soon people are going to see an artwork of may I spoiler this? You allow me the spoiler? You are going to see Edward Ashworth, aka the Grim Knight. So maybe it's good for Erasmo that we had this pool without showing all the arts, because it would have been a tough battle against Edward Ashworth.
Well, next up we have the sprites, right? Yeah, and the winner is... Now, this is the only one that won by a landslide. School rider Verana, Dogaressa of Vileccia, with such a name she has.
She's a peculiar little. Please, Rico, narrator her brief story.
Verana is a salamander, a sprite and salamander, and she's said to be the most beautiful littling in whole the house, even more beautiful than the Tsarina Arkadia Oberonovna. And let's just say that Verana had a very fast career, and she became Dogaressa, which means Duchess. So she's the Duchess of the pond in the basement, and she had a very, very quick career, because her employee at some point all died unexpectedly, poisoned, stabbed, and we don't know why. We can only assume that something bad happened to them. So she was the assistant of 30 to 40 littlings who died unexpectedly, unfortunately. But that was good for her, because she made a very quick career. Very beloved character. I had no doubt that Verana would be this higher than the others. And also the Italian audience is pretty Also because she's from Vilescia, that of course is some kind of Venus for us. It's so it's the Italian part of the house.
Yes.
So Italian neighborhood here.
Yes.
Very mysterious deaths
very
indeed.
It happens. It can happen to me, to you, to everybody.
Yes.
Especially if you have
if you make too many.
Verana working for
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now the final is the Slug.
Yes.
Yes. And the winner is Marquise. How do I have no idea. Marquise of the piano.
Yes.
Is it French? Tristan Delarme.
Exactly.
You always have to read the whole thing before starting to read any household name, because I said Valentine of the Lamp. I when I noticed it was too late. No, this was supposed to be French.
Yeah, you get at some point.
Tristan won, yeah.
Tristan is it's in the video. You've seen Tristan in the video. You've seen Tristan in the quick start. He's the one that's inviting us in with the
a collection of butterfly wings.
Collection of butterfly wings, and
Thank you.
Tristan is a very important character in the household lore because he's a fairy. He has these beautiful butterfly wings that no other fairy have, and it is said that he's secretly a Slua, which turns out to be true because actually Tristan was adopted during the war by a fairy colonel of the Great Imperial Army who found this little Slua and raised him as a fairy. And it's a very dark and mysterious character. It's the kind of a French ruler. Is very has a very baroque court, but he's also a very valiant littling, and he fought for what was right, and therefore he has a lot of enemies, and is very, very, I would say, probably the most loved character of household from the at least the one who already have the first edition. So I'm glad he did it, and I'm glad that you voted for him despite not knowing him.
And
Yeah, some people are. Sorry, go ahead.
I should add he has a flying carriage trained by two enormous beetles when he goes flying around the realm. So it's peculiar, literally.
I was going to say that people are already coming in Tristan's defense. Tristan fans are here.
Tristan has a lot of fans.
And also it's funny that Caliph Laio the Handsome was the last, because Laio is one of the most despised character inside the household lore, despite being one of the
goodest, the positive is always fighting for the rights of everyone.
Because he's a pacifist, he believes in progress, so he's uncool because it's not like pro-war, is not like a superhero, so of course he's a bit uncool for the mess, but
the voice of the littling people,
university,
right? The voice of the littling people shall prevail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have to say, I personally was rooting for old Yonka.
Yonka is one of my favorite. I can show all the Yonka.
Yeah, I have it.
I have on the Italian version of the guide a very, very, very small artwork of the old Yonka.
Let's take a look.
She is.
Oh.
She's said to be the oldest littling in the house. Maybe there's a very, very old Boggart who could be around the same age, but who knows? It's very difficult speaking to them because they speak the language spoken in the house or outside the house 100 years ago. So basically, no one fully understands them.
Because Yonka actually has all the answers,
yes.
But nobody can understand what she said because she only talks in the language, only speaks the language of the far beyond. So nobody can understand what she said.
Nobody remembers it anymore.
How convenient.
Well, and you got these results about what? An hour ago, half an hour ago? What was it?
Yeah, it was about
And
a few minutes before the live. You can see there's 383 replies there. We've gotten a few more uh, when we started the live, but we wanted to check to see whether we could get a head start on some of them.
yeah, and approximately 1 hour before the live, Daniela got the ongoing results, and so she already started working on something.
Yeah.
Do we have
Which one?
something? Who do we have?
Well, let's take a look.
Ah,
She started from Valentine.
hang on.
De la
Valentin
Lampe.
de la Lampe.
De la Lampe. Thank you, Lola.
De la lampe. She did this in half an hour.
Yes,
Yes.
I know it's hard to believe. Of course, you have seen the Joker, so she already have made some generic poses. You see on the stretch code that there is actually someone holding something in his hand. So she had an idea, and she saw that Valentine was on top, and she took her chance to start drawing something. And I was like, Daniela, people are going to believe that this is all.
Yeah, pull back a bit.
Yeah,
It's all
The
guys'
results were rigged.
fault, we know.
slow down at some point because people are not going to believe that you actually waited for the polls.
It seems that not only the contracts are magic, huh?
Yeah,
True. Wait, our vote's over already. Yes, unfortunately, you can come back a little bit. We announced the winners, and as you can see, Danielle is already working on the art at an astonishing speed.
yeah.
So you can come back to this video after the live ends, right? We'll publish it, and you can see all the results for each folk.
Well, I believe that brings us to the present, right? This was the last stretch goal we unlocked.
Yeah, I think so. That's the last one, and here I'm trying to think carefully. What can I say? What can't I say? Contract deck is what we have. Well, yes, okay, we're good. Yeah, so we talked a lot about contracts today. So contracts deck, a deck of 40 plus mini cards is what we have right now. If we reach 250, that's what gets added to the campaign.
So it's time to take a peek at the future, what the future brings, correct?
Yes.
I think if you have been following the campaign closely, you won't be too surprised by this. Does this ring a bell to anyone?
All right. So today we're bringing a new figure set. Before I speak too much, we have a short video just to show the figures for you. 6 new Litlings.
Yeah, here they are. I love that one. That one may be my favorite.
Icarus?
Yeah.
In this lot, there are more than one most favorite. We'll
Priscilla
talk
for me.
about them.
Priscilla and Zagar for me.
Priscilla. It's lovely.
Micah.
I am all for Gemma. Gemma is definitely my favorite
Yes,
bot.
I agree. Icarus has a really, really cool pose with it's exquisite. I don't know what's it. It's like a piece of wood.
Yeah.
You know him. So it's
A root,
very
some kind of root.
Yeah. Can we see?
gonna
I think
start somewhere.
we can see each of them individually now, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So starting off with, I hope I'm saying this right, Shvan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So starting off with Shvan, who has I can't. I love that she has the little needle and the buttons. So
Yeah,
go.
absolutely. I'll let you. Who wants to go first? Miniatures or more character? What do you guys say?
Now let's go talk about the miniature. So we take a pose.
So this
and
is
also-
this is one of the ones that I briefly mentioned before, where simply replicating the pose from the art didn't work at all because there's a lot going on to her. There's a lot of the contrapposto that she has, the way that she's carrying herself. There's a lot of also she she uses a needle as a weapon, as we said. We wanted to make sure to connect the threads, so there are threads coming from the needle, wrapping her along her side. And of course, in order to decorate the base around her, we wanted to play with buttons. And we were at some point measuring real life buttons from our shirts. So we wanted to make sure that these are 10 buttons. Like you can actually place that figure next to real life things and, to deliver the scale. So it's something that we're very happy with. And of course, all the amazing detail that the team at Big Child was able to put there, the corset, the straps, the hair. I could go on and on, but there's 5 more. I'll let you guys talk about a bit.
But she's a dualist, a sprite and a sylph. And she's what we call a virtuoso. So she's
an athlete, basically.
An athlete, see, basically, and very lovable character. She's actually the bodyguard of Aiden McKenna that we are going to see in a moment, and she's like the character that always go for it. She's always ready for everything. She doesn't think too much. She just she acts and grabs adventure and opposite to Aiden that is a totally different.
How not to like an impulsive duelist, right? It's impossible. Yeah.
So cool. Well, shall we go to the next one? Okay, next up we have Gemma. Yeah, you're right, Rico. The half scissors.
I love this miniature.
Yeah.
Miniature is
she's huge, she's strong. I love her.
Yep.
She's exactly what she looks like. She's a mercenary, a soldier, and a mercenary, and she
a hard life, as you can see by the number of scars.
The number of scars. She took part to the war, not as a soldier, but as a little girl who actually happened to live at the center of the household war. So it was unfortunate for her, as she's just very tough and very strong, and but also witty, and it's the right character when you want really to leave the action side of household. So
yeah, absolutely, and that translated to the figure too. Right? Just coming into what you're saying, there's a lot of forward momentum with her. Like she is, if you see her foot, she is supporting and pushing herself out of the scenery. So we wanted to give enough there to kind of motivate, create that momentum. So she's really dashing forward. And you can see it's a controlled move, right? She's guided under control. She has the scissor, weapon in hand. She, her eyes are straight. Like she's a soldier just dashing into action. Something that we wanted to kind of, as opposed to like Soban we just saw, very delicate with the needle up.
Gemma is closed. Shoban has her eyes closed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another very good point on Shoban, that we were wondering at some point, should her eyes be closed? Should it be open? And it takes a lot of angles. You're looking at the whole set. You're looking at her pose, her character, right? So yeah, this is Gemma was all about making sure that the momentum is translated in.
Before we move forward, can we go back to Shban and just get this question? Can you guys explain the string? Does she throw her needle around?
She doesn't.
It's through a fencing style. The needle, basically, in the house, there are, I will be very brief, there are 4 different fencing style, right? It's in Italy. And string and needle, it's one of the style. In the complete household, of course, you will see that the needle has its own braids, its own things, and when you have the strings attached, you will be able to have even more advantages fighting in a peculiar way. If I remember correctly, in the first version of Household, in the guide, yes, here we are.
1 second. Oh yeah.
A fencing school of the needle.
Really
so
cool.
Basically, yes. The way one with the needle fights is using the strings to, incapacitate his adversaries, his opponents, and using the needle, which is not very good for parrying. conceptually because it's I don't know what to call it in English, but it's not very sturdy. Thank you, Simon. And but it's very fast. So
And also you can use it as a grappling hook.
yes, and also it's
very, very cool for a
yes. When you are doing when you're running away from a big spider, you can just using as a grappling hook, which is a cool pro.
Yeah.
So we stopped at Gemma. Let's
Yes.
continue then
Yes.
with Priscilla and Zagar.
She's my favorite. When I was starting up
I
working
think
on
she was the first one to be
Yep.
realized. Priscilla.
Yeah. And it's amazing because that's not often the case, right? As you start working and sculpting a series of figures, it is quite normal that the style will adapt and be adjusted, that there's improvements. Priscilla was one of the first miniatures we worked on when we were preparing Household, and she's remained, I think, my favorite just because of combination of things. I remember she was the first one that put me in the mindset of having props around for real life scale. So we have a candy there just before behind her. But how not to talk about that gecko, right? Just the way the gecko is with her. She's an animal handler, of course, but Zagar is just hopped on her back. But it's more than that. You can see that her hands both are supporting, sort of holding his hand. You can see how the tail wraps around. Like it's a very like the companionship between them is very apparent, very clear. To me, it's just amazing. It's so very cool.
She's clearly stopping him from jumping. I see just this pose where he wants just to go, probably eating or stealing something, knowing Zagar, and she's like, "No, stay here, please, behave."
Because Priscilla had grown up with two fathers, and one of her fathers was a welder, worked with metal, and the other father was a singer.
A singer.
So, and she's like she has both of that aspects in her, and she's very strong and very gentle. She's a very funny character, and also has this special bond with Zagar, which I think the art and the miniature shows perfectly. And she's actually the only one who could handle Zagar, because Zagar was like they were about to throw him away because he was a thief and he was very relentless, and she was the only one who could actually bond with him. So very funny couple.
He is clearly going to steal something shiny.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is actually a rule in Household. If you have a Gecko and there is something shiny, you have to roll a d6, and if you roll a 1, a blank with our dice, the Gecko will just disobey your order and go for it and just try to steal it.
He
will put that
in his mouth like that.
Yeah, and just climb on the ceiling and just get stuck on the ceiling, and it's a mess that you have to take the Gecko and open his mouth. It's complicated.
Since people can't seem to be able to pick their pets, are there rules for multiple pets? Can you have pets like Pokemon? Like, can you collect them all?
Yes, but only one of them could be your, I don't know how to call it, your true animal companion. So you can just have one of them and use their moves. While the others...
actually, if you are an animal handler, you can have only if you are an animal handler. If you are not an animal handler, you can have other pets. But if you are an animal handler, I think you can have up to 3 of them.
Yes.
But of course, since considering how the growth in Household is dealt with, you always have to choose when you advance to another chapter if you want to take a new move for you or for your pet. So it means you have spent more time working on yourself or working with your animal. So if you have multiple pets, they will have less moves because you will have to spend.
Oh, you have multiple pets.
But you will have multiple pets. I mean,
yes, I forget
And
that
also
it's-
the rules to play with just one master and one player, one narrator and one player,
if you are a
they
free,
involve a lot of pets.
yes,
Extra
let's-
love for two-player game there.
yes.
We don't have much time left, so let's move forward with Micah.
All right. Let's look him up. He's all about the menace, right? Like from a figure point of view. We're looking for it's all points and spikes and hard angles, hard edges, right? He's got the hat, the eye patch, the cloak. Like it's all about bringing to the table how dangerous Micah can be.
And it's fun because Micah is a dangerous littling, of course, but he's one of the most kind-hearted littlings of all. He's actually, I would say that he's quite peaceful in respect of Priscilla and Zagar. And it's fun because his appearance has caused him a lot of troubles during his life because he's like the perfect criminal. So he often gets blamed for things that he haven't done. But all in all, Micah is a very good criminal that is trying to live a good life, but he's always brought back in the.
He's a very unlucky guy. It's
Yeah.
also a relation, so it says it is pretty funny. It has an Italian name and surname, but since he lives on the upper floor, he has to change it in a more, a more common sound on the upper floor. His name is really Michelangelo Dole.
Oh,
Like a Shakespearean fellow.
They couldn't pronounce Michelangelo Dole, so they just wrote down Micah Doyle.
Yes.
That's more common for Taberdam, for the Bath, where he lives. So
I love this backstory of I don't want to be a bad guy, but I'm just so good
Yes,
at it.
it's
always
every single adventure is involving him is like, oh, it's been 6 months since your last theft, but now you accidentally, I don't know, step on someone. Now you have to steal
Also,
something, or they will kill you. Oh, no, again.
you always have to break the law to do the right
Yes.
things. You always
Yes.
choose to do the right things, and often he has to break the law to do that, and he has to pay the consequences.
It just so happens he's so good at it.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to my favorite, Icarus.
Icarus Koenig is the fairy hunter, right? So this is one of the rare instances where, in order to sculpt him, we had to have more than one, not just the artwork. We had to draw a few more sketches, just doodles, because there's a lot going on, right? The main artwork for him has the back towards the viewer. It's part of his personality and characteristic. He has his back. He's holding his crossbow up, and we wanted to make sure that all that is translated all around the figure. It can't just work from that one angle, right? So there's a lot going on with the scenery there to kind of give him that elevation, that support. Also with the play with the wings and how the weapons have to be carried in relation to his body, how he's holding that and propping against his body, and of course all the details for the scenery. Something that it may not look like it, but there's a lot of work that goes into just making sure that they look and feel right, in terms of support and proportion there.
Yeah, I was scared because the artwork was only showing the shoulders. So it's very good figure that you can watch it from any angle, and it's good in any angle. I can only imagine that it wasn't easy having this very intricate. And Icarus, poor guy, poorest family in the poorest neighborhood of the poorest city, of the dining room. He wanted to be a soldier. He worked to go to the military academy in Glasgow inside the cupboard, and he finally became a sentinel. So he was sent off to the long holloway, which is the most dangerous place of the house, and it's what
Sentinels for the fairies I don't know, U.S. Marine Corps, something.
Yeah.
Like this. A very, very elite corps inside the great Imperial Army.
so
They are
it's
stuck
very-
in the worst place, like 2 years patrolling the hallway, the most dangerous part of the hallway. So it's a tough job.
Yeah.
Well, and finally, that brings us to Aiden McKenna, who you mentioned very early on when we saw Shvan. Shvan.
Yeah.
Shubham. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
because he's one of the first detectives of the house, because now there is an university dedicated to detective and forensic scientist. So he's the prototype of this Sherlock Holmes, very young, very rich family. He's a physician and a scientist, very shy, very small, very he's also afraid of a lot of things, and but he's very has a very sharp mind. It's a good detective, and thanks to Shoba, he can survive any situation. Also, he will hopefully help him to uh, be more open, because most of household story are stories about personal growth. So yeah.
I mean, look at that hair. Do I need to say anything else?
He's a typical salamander with the
That's so
red hair.
cool. It's just so I want that. Okay, that's hairstyle goal right there. But his pose was one of those, right? One of the tricky ones, because it didn't translate literally. The artwork doesn't have momentum. He's staying still. He's watching the it's not a beak, a vial beaker. He's watching that bottle that he has.
Beaker.
Yeah, and we were working on this. We wanted to make sure that we wanted to convey that concentration, that studiousness of him, right? So what we did was we made him walking across the scenery, so he's aloof to what's going on around him. So there's more beakers, there's a whole bag with ingredients next to him, but he's hyper focused on that bottle, and that hand also against the chest, something that it didn't. The other art was sort of kind of coming close to the beaker. We wanted to find a way to kind of support that in the movement that the figure has. And I'm just very happy. Like, we raised the bottle also as well, brought it closer to his eyes. So it came, it evolved, or I should say, it was translated from a more still kind of just gazing at this right here in front of him into a bit more movement pose for the figure. Something that we constantly exchanged during the process. A figure that I'm particularly very happy with too.
Well, this is figure set 3, right, Guilherme? When can we expect this?
Correct. That's actually a very good point. So it will be the add-on will be made available today after the live ends. It takes us just a few moments to prep the update, to add the item system. So bear with us a bit after we finish the live, but it will be available today. This is figure set 3. It's also important to say that this is the final optional buy for miniatures. It does not mean we're done with miniatures. There's more to come. It's a lot of fun, but this is the final optional buy for minis for the campaign. I shouldn't say miniatures. They're not miniatures. They're figures. They're real life scale figures.
Exactly.
Okay. So I guess that's all the time we had for today. I think we even went a bit over the time that we had, but we had an amazing audience with us today that asked all sorts of great questions and made me laugh many times. So thank you all for that. Thank you all for joining me. We have 5 days left in the campaign?
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly 5 days and several hours.
And plenty more to come. If you're excited about what you've seen so far, there's more coming your way. There are more surprises. We are constantly hearing your feedback and preparing things on our end. We can't wait to show you guys what we have in store. And we will talk again, Elena. Are there plans? Yes?
Yes, we should have a final live stream, if I'm not mistaken, on Monday, right before we hit the 48 hours left mark.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll keep you guys posted.
Yeah, so I guess I'll see you all really soon, and you all will join us again really soon for that final rush. The last 48 hours are always very busy, so looking forward to that. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all very
See
much.
you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.